Hello everyone. Once again welcome to our lecture series Geographical Thought of MSc Geography second year at KJ Somaya College, Kopergaon. So today we are going to learn about hypothesis. What is meant by hypothesis and what are the type of hypothesis. So let's start our lesson. What is a hypothesis? Hypothesis is a set of assumption to be or disprove is called hypothesis. A set of assumption to be prove or disprove is called hypothesis. For a researcher, hypothesis is a formal questions that he intend to resolve. Hypothesis is considered as an intelligent guess or a prediction that gives a directional to the researcher to answer the research questions. Hypotheses are defined as the predictive statement or explanation capable for being tested by scientific method that show the relationship between two or more independent to some dependent variable in a specific population or specified population. A hypothesis is an assumption about relation between variables. It is a tentative explanation of a research problem or guess about the research outcome. Webster in 1968 has defined hypothesis as a tentative assumption made in a order to draw out and test it logical or empirical consequence. Test her means either to prove it wrong or to confirm it. Let's see the types of hypothesis. First one is simple hypothesis. Simple hypothesis is that in which there exists relationship between two variables. One is called independent variable or cause, and the other is dependent variable. One is independent variable and one is dependent variable. For example, smoking lead to cancer, and another example is the highest ratio of unemployment lead to crime. That is an example of simple hypothesis. Next is null hypothesis. Null hypothesis are hypothetical models used to test research hypothesis. It is also considered as the reverse of research hypothesis. Hypothesis considering no difference or the hypothesis of no difference is called null hypothesis. Here you can see here. And is denoted by H0. Third one is alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis which is substitute of null hypothesis is called alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis is that which state opposite of the null hypothesis, and it is denoted by HA. Null hypothesis is accepted when alternative hypothesis is rejected. Null hypothesis is rejected when alternative hypothesis is accepted. So remember this. Next is research hypothesis. Research hypothesis means hypothesis derived from the researcher's theory about some geographical phenomena are called research hypothesis, or you can also call working hypothesis. Fifth number is statistical hypothesis. Statistical hypothesis that observation about people or thing are reduced in some way to numerical quantities and decisions are made about these quantities. A hypothesis which can be verified statistically called statistic hypothesis. Simple word. A hypothesis which can be verified statistically called as statistical hypothesis. So keep in mind this simple definition. So next is a major function of a hypothesis is to a major function of hypothesis is to make it possible to test theories. In this regard, an alternative definition of a hypothesis is that it is a statement of theory is a testable forms. Some hypotheses are not associated with any particular theory. It could become out as a result of some hypothesis as a theory will be constructed. Consequently, another function of hypothesis is to suggested theories that may account for some event. Hypothesis also perform a descriptive function. Each time a hypothesis is tested empirically and its result tells something about the phenomena. If the hypothesis is supported, then the information about the phenomena increase. Even if the hypothesis is refuted, the test tells something about the phenomena that is not known before. Next point is testing hypothesis. Testing hypothesis means subjecting them to some sort of empirical scrutiny to determine if they are supported or refuted by what the research observed. The accumulation of information as a result of hypothesis testing reduces the amount of ignorance we may have about why a social event occurs in a given way. So there is a two prerequisites for a hypothesis testing. First is a real social situation is needed that will suffice as a reasonable testing ground for the hypothesis, and second one is the investigator should make sure that his or her hypotheses are testable. So let's see the characteristic of hypothesis. First one is hypothesis should be clear and precise. Hypothesis should be clear and precise, should be capable for being tested. Research program have bogged down due to unstable hypothesis. Hypothesis state the relationship between variables if it be a relational hypothesis. Should be limited in a scope and must be specific. Narrower hypotheses are generally more testable, and research should develop such a hypothesis. It should be amenable to testing within the reasonable times. So hypothesis must explain to facts that give rise to the need for explanation. Using the hypothesis and other known and accepted generalization, one should be able to explain the original problem conditions. So hypothesis should be stated as a possible in a most simple terms so that it's easily understandable by all concerned. But on the must remember this simplicity of hypothesis has nothing to do with its significance. So I hope you understood about the hypothesis and hypothesis types, and as well as functions, major function of hypothesis. So another part, see you in the next lecture. Thank you.